Every programmer who was familiar with the work of Robert Kiyosaki, Napoleon Hill, and the like once wondered, how about starting my startup, making millions, and finally starting to work for myself? In this video, we'll finally break down those rosy dreams and answer the main question: why shouldn't you start your startup? The classical definition of an entrepreneur is someone who builds and operates a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. If successful, their innovations can improve our standard of living and help society prosper. Sounds great, right? While it is true that the journey may be full of potential, more likely than not, you've been sold a series of myths. It was not long ago I took the entrepreneurial plunge, and since then, it's become obvious that this profession, if you can call it that, is not for everyone. So before doing anything drastic, here are 6 reasons you shouldn't ditch the cubicle to start a startup. 1. Not ready for the commitment. Starting a startup takes over your life. If you want to spend your days traveling the world, spending time with nature, or simply enjoying a comfy 9-to-5 job, that's a perfectly good reason not to start a startup. If you value freedom above all, startups are not for you. If you start a startup, you're going to work hard, and you'll have much less spare time than you might expect. If your startup succeeds, it's going to consume several years of your life at least. If it fails, you'll be done a lot quicker. But either way, you shouldn't start one if you're not ready for that level of commitment. 2. Need structure. If you need someone telling you what to do, don't start a startup. Don't even work for one. The founders and early team members at a startup must be self-directed and independent-minded enough to maximize their time. There isn't a predefined path. You control your destiny. While that sounds great, there are also no set responsibilities or deliverables. It's your job to identify the most important projects and focus on those. It may sound not easy, and that's because it is. 3. Fear of uncertainty. If you're considering starting a startup and working at Quicken Loans, you're probably not ready for the uncertainty of startup life. If you start a startup, it will probably fail. Seriously. In the worst case scenario, it will still be interesting, and in the best case scenario, you might earn a small fortune. Until then, you're working entirely on commission. Salary raises, matching contributions to 401k, and vacation time aren't even a point of discussion at an early-stage startup. Not only is there the financial unknown, but directional uncertainty as well. In an instant, everything can change. Your technology, marketing, or sales strategy will most likely need to be rethought multiple times over. 4. No determination. Determination is considered the single best predicator of success in a startup. Companies don't build themselves, and the odds are stacked against you. Early team members must do whatever it takes to make the company lift off. If you fail to execute, your company will fail to launch. My favorite analogy to this point is a reference to 007. Paul Graham says that startup founders have to be like James Bond. The license to build must be earned. It's not given. Founders have to be willing to put in the hard work to succeed. If you're not willing to be the 007 of startups, then you're going to have a hard time launching your business. 5. You want to be the boss. One of the biggest misconceptions about starting a startup is that you'll be the boss. Sorry to disappoint, but it works quite the opposite. First, if you have investors or any type of funding, you'll have a fiduciary responsibility to them. Second, if your team is bigger than just you, and it should be, you're working for your co-founders and employees. Third, and most importantly, you're working for your customers. So it's worth putting aside your wet dreams of burning through your time in the office with a best boss coffee mug. Get ready to work hard and remember the quote that always motivates me. Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, difficulty. I have never envied a human being who led an easy life. I have envied a great many people who led difficult lives and led them well. Theodore Roosevelt. 6. You want to be rich. Successful startups were built to solve a genuine problem that the founders were facing. If you came up with the next Snapchat to be super rich, then you should not start a startup with that idea. If you want to make a lot of money quickly, go work on Wall Street or marry into wealth. Entrepreneurship is the journey of creating a solution to a real-world problem that can be turned into a viable business. Remember, Entrepreneur estimates that on average, it takes at least 3 years for new product businesses to become profitable. Among other expenses, the company's staff includes the cost of adding a partner or experts to produce the product, as well as marketing expenses. Sometimes a company makes a profit from acquiring customers or a new product within 3 years, but these cases are rare. Most owners have to be patient and wait. 7. Self-confidence. Startup DNA is comprised of characteristics like resilience, risk-taking, and resourcefulness. As a founder, you have to exhibit these characteristics confidently and articulately. There is a clear difference between confidence and arrogance, and many startups institute a no a-hole policy early on. You'll never be able to successfully retain team members if you're a jerk. Unlike corporate America, early team members at a startup have a finely tuned BS indicator and will not stick with you if you're disrespectful and arrogant. So if you're an a-hole, please don't start a startup. In conclusion, I would like to say that people often overestimate their capabilities by comparing themselves to people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and the like. They do not take into account the fact that they have successful parents, excellent education, and useful acquaintances, which they inherited from their parents. Therefore, sometimes it is better to choose the comfortable conditions of employment than to try to find oneself in one's own business and fade away in unsuccessful attempts to start a business. It may not sound so easy, and that's because it isn't.